for more on the Gaza crisis, let's go to Houston. I'm joined by Edward Djerejian. He is the founding director of Rice University's Baker Institute and a former U.S. ambassador to Israel and Syria. His career in the U.S. Foreign Service spanned 8 administrations, from Presidents Kennedy to Clinton. Mr. Ambassador, welcome back to Bottom Line. It's a pleasure to have you on the broadcast.
Good to be with you, Mark.
Sir, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reportedly told his military to prepare for what's called a significant expansion of the ground offensive in Gaza. Is the goal to stop rocket attacks into Israel, or is the goal to crush Hamas?
Well, I think the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Israeli government know that even with a ground invasion, they cannot crush and eliminate Hamas. But I think the goal is to degrade Hamas's military infrastructure to the highest extent possible, especially its ability to launch rockets against Israel. That's why you're seeing a very keen military focus on these tunnels that Hamas has constructed underneath the Gazan-Israeli border,
right,
and near the border. So no, it's not to crush Hamas, but it's to seriously degrade its military capabilities.
Sir, as you well know, there was a 3-week Israeli ground operation into Gaza in 2009, and it seemed the objective at that time was the same as you just mentioned, to degrade their military capacity. But Hamas recovered at that time. Are you concerned that this Israeli offensive will last longer, resulting in more military and civilian casualties?
I think we're going to see a replay of the film you just indicated. We had it in 2008, 2009, and 2012, and now in 2014. I think the Israelis obviously are compelled, because of the rocket attacks on their country, to go in, do whatever they can to buy an extended period of calm, they hope at least 2 years. And then if there is no, and this is a key point, if there is no political settlement between the Israelis and the Palestinians in terms of a peace agreement and ending the occupation, we're going to see this film recur. There is no military solution to this conflict. There's no military solution to the Hamas issue,
right,
and the Hamas challenge. There's only a political solution.
Mr. Ambassador, what are the economics of this latest conflict? The economy in Gaza, it's already reeling. Now the infrastructure, it's being reduced to rubble. What does this mean for Gaza going forward, particularly in terms of any international aid if Gaza hopes to rebuild?
Well, for the population, the 1.7 million people who live in Gaza, this is and I'm not talking about the Hamas militants, but this is a humanitarian disaster. They are kept alive by foreign subsidies from the wealthy Arab states, from United Nations organizations, assistance, the UN Refugee Organization. But Gaza is a disaster area, and the living conditions are abysmal. The sanitation conditions are abysmal. The medical conditions are abysmal. It's a prison. And so the economic consequences with a military incursion just worse.
And we should mention that as the ambassador is speaking, we are looking at a live picture from Gaza. You see some appears to be maybe some fires in the distance there as that Israeli ground offensive continues. Mr. Ambassador, would part of an economic recovery have to involve Israel easing restrictions to allow goods into Gaza?
I think, Mark, that's basically the trade-off. What Hamas is probably going to really work for, because it cannot afford to be seen as having been defeated by these Israeli actions, military actions, is an opening of the borders between certainly the southern border between Rafah, Egypt, and Gaza, an easing of the Israeli blockade of goods and services coming into Gaza across the borders. That is key. They have another very high political demand, which is the release of Palestinian prisoners. But certainly it's the easing of the blockade so that life can return to some very minimal normalcy in Gaza.
Edward Djerejian, he is the founding director of Rice University's Baker Institute, former U.S. ambassador to Israel and Syria, joining us from Houston. Mr. Ambassador, it's always a privilege to get your perspective. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure to be with you. Thank you.